The number of people playing Leagues 3 is falling dramatically, and I've noticed myself that people are watching less and less videos on it. But was Leagues 3 a huge success or a complete failure? This is not about Jagex bashing, which is a very easy and popular thing for many people who make videos to do. This is more about giving some feedback so that we can improve Leagues going forward. The first task they set out to do was to make Leagues 3 different to 1 and 2, so the concept doesn't become repetitive and ultimately boring. Whilst many of the tasks and relics were the same as Leagues 2, the concept is very different. Having the whole map unlocked but not all skills was the exact opposite to Leagues 2, and therefore came with a completely different strategy. It did this while still retaining the very powerful relics and XP boosts, which is what most of us love about Leagues. Whilst they got this right, I know a lot of people really don't think so, and I understand why, which I'll come to in a moment. But they actually succeeded in this part in mixing up Leagues whilst keeping a lot of the original concept. However, in previous Leagues our options were pretty much limitless at the start. For a few days, weeks or months, we could stop whatever long repetitive grind we were doing in our main game to do something fun and choose any path we wanted. Skillers could go mine and smith, cut wood and fletch, or fish and cook, whilst those who wanted to PvM or PvP could get straight into it or start Slayer immediately. The restrictions in Leagues 1 and 2 was only the areas you could access, but it only really affected how efficiently you could train a skill. These areas were big enough that apart from a couple of skills, we had access to train everything straight away. Starting Leagues 3 with 4 skills unlocked, 2 of those being combat but not hit points, and another being fishing without cooking, forces you down a path of grinding as many points as possible, just to unlock a skill. Then, grind as many points as possible again in the skill you've just unlocked so you can lock the next skill and repeat. I can see this was done with good intentions, and as I said, they succeeded in mixing up Leagues really effectively, but the restrictions actually turn this fun mode into more of the repetitive main game we usually play anyway. I've heard a lot of people say that the relics aren't as powerful this year, but actually they're far more powerful than they have ever been. In Leagues 2, the most XP you could get in gathering skills was 32x if you chose Endless Harvest. But in Leagues 3, Greedy Gatherer alone gives you 40 times the normal XP rate. Processing skills are again done immediately, but in this Leagues we have added effects such as saving Dragonhide and making extra jewellery or items when smithing. Plus, we also have many quality of life upgrades such as more money when alching, triple points in many minigames, extra fossils, and so on. And I really like what they did with combat. Instead of faster attack relics like Leagues 2, we get much higher damage. Plus, by adding an increased special attack to bolts, it means Ruby Bolts E are very good against bosses with high health. Bandosium Might means we can hit some crazy numbers in melee, and having 250% accuracy for magic really changes so many dynamics in the game and makes magic very viable for a lot of things that it wasn't before. But the biggest upgrade and the reason Leagues 3 relics are so much more powerful than Leagues 1 or 2 is the fact that we are not locked into what we choose. Previously, if you picked to gather double resources, we in effect locked ourselves out of Production Master permanently that completed full inventories immediately in all processing skills. This time we don't lock ourselves out of anything, we simply just switch between the two, and we can even combine them in any way we see fit. In woodcutting we can have Greedy Gatherer, which gives us up to triple resources at 48 times the normal XP, combined with Slash and Burn that burns half of them for an average of 24 times the XP. We can add in Personal Banker, meaning resources go straight to the bank, and when you add in both Message in a Bottle, Home Wrecker and Hot on the Trail, you get around 40 times the clue scrolls that you would normally. So much work must have been done on these to test every possible combination, and it's such a shame that one thing lets it down, which is the application. The fragments themselves, the choice and diversity are amazing, but using them is honestly painful. There are so many different combinations for every skill that you're never going to remember them all. Every skill requires different fragments, and it feels like half your life is spent changing fragments or trying to remember what you used before, only to start something and realise you missed one and have to run all the way back to the bank. Even bosses require completely different fragments depending on their difficulty. Sometimes you want to reduce damage and that means using absolute unit, so you have to change the fragments over. but as you change them you lose a different set effect, so then need to go through every fragment in those sets and then all of your active fragments to see if you can have both set effects at the same time, as well as the individual fragments you want. All in all, taking a very long time. For all of the quality of life upgrades they have done in Leagues, the biggest one would have been to have at least 5 or 10 loadouts for fragments that we could quickly swap between. The other issue we come across is that gathering skills require far more fragments to be efficient than processing skills, which is completely back to front since we gather items and then process them. Unlocking the true potential of woodcutting, farming, fishing or mining requires you get all of the fragments for Greedy Gatherer and Personal Banker, plus the individual ones to suddenly go from 5, 8 or 12 times the normal XP to instantly getting 48 times the XP if you unlock all of the sets. In Leagues 2, Endless Harvest was similar to Greedy Gatherer and a Tier 1 Relic, your very first choice of unlock, but this time it will take you quite a while to get there. No wonder a lot of people feel like the relics aren't that powerful, when really they're more powerful but just take so much longer to get them. The tasks this year are very similar to Leagues 2, and I agree that tasks such as create an Amulet of Glory is better than what we had in Leagues 1, which was simply get 80 crafting. This way is generally more enjoyable and I'm glad that they kept it, but I would just like to see one improvement for next year. It doesn't work after you get 99 in a skill. It then becomes more enjoyable to just have a target of so much XP. The reason for this is after we have spent ages to unlock the 16 times multiplier, which stacks with Greedy Gatherer to give us 48 times the XP, cooks half the food and gives us over 40 times the clue scrolls, we then don't want to have to kill Temporos 350 times for tasks, ignoring half of the boosts that we took ages getting in the first place. And I appreciate there has to be more tasks than can be completed for those going for the number 1 spot, but I would love to have seen more RNG based tasks such as get a shield left half or dragon med whilst fishing, using the catch of the day fragment. Currently, people like myself who love to go bossing can hear hundreds of damage and also have better drop rates, while skillers get to do 2000 laps around Apatol or complete Wintertodt 350 times. The funny thing about Leagues 3 is actually on the surface it is so much better than 1 and 2. The fragment combinations and set effects combined give us strategies that we have never seen before, all brand new to the game. They all work in harmony, making the game far more fun. The people who worked on these fragments truly did a great job in this Leagues. The crazy numbers we can hit in Leagues is incredibly fun to see, watching some of these bosses that have claimed the lives of so many hardcore Iron Man getting one shot. Most tasks are pretty enjoyable and can be done by everyone, regardless of skill level, and it really only had a couple of what should have been really small issues. They just had a massive impact on the gameplay. Having so many skills locked in theory meant we would all have different plans, but the unlocking mechanism actually presented us with less options, forcing us down certain paths and to grind one skill at a time for points for the next, rather than giving us the extra choice they intended. The fragments and set effects should have been a huge success, let down by a system that made you spend so much time constantly changing them. But let's not forget Leagues is a lot of fun and many other companies forget that in their pursuit of never-ending revenue. These temporary game modes take a ton of developers' time for something that is gone in a few weeks, just for our enjoyment, and whilst they are not for everyone, I personally love both Leagues and Deadman mode. As a whole, these game modes will always be a success, that's why there is so much interest in them, but I think this Leagues above all else frustrated me a little, because all of those issues were minor fixes that most players realised within a week of playing. Leagues 3 was delayed a few months and just one person testing this content should really have picked this up. In fact, I won't be the only one making vids that would gladly do this for free, even if I couldn't release videos on it, so it wouldn't even cost Jagex a thing. The reason for that is the hardest thing when making videos is getting content, and all of that information you could get just for when Leagues is out, when you can release videos, would be worth its weight in gold to anyone making them. I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus at all, that's not my intentions, but problems in this Leagues wasn't because the idea, concept or the fragments didn't work. Every single one of the issues was apparent to all of us as you simply played Leagues. When you realise I'm just grinding points. After I get points, I grind whatever I unlock to get more points, and this feels nothing like the usual massive XP, do whatever you want Leagues experience. By the time I unlock gathering set effects, I'm already going to be level 99, and all I seem to do is change fragments all of the time. Leagues 3 on the whole was very good. I just think testing let it down. All of the hard work and all of those great ideas and things that they did was let down by the smallest thing. But that's now in the past and it's never going to change, so what can be improved for the next leagues? Firstly, and most importantly of all, please Jagex, do something about the Warriors Guild. I played this game long enough to remember when there wasn't enough content for everyone, and it was quite common to get crashed at certain creatures such as blue dragons. As it spawned, there would be two of you trying to fight over the first hit so you could kill at that spawn. In all honesty, it was really toxic going for defenders, and to fix it, all it would take is to massively increase drop rates or immediate respawns to fix this. Some shops also had fast restock active, but many were missed, such as the charter ships and the mage arena for cosmic and nature runes. There is also the biggest issue of all, which was not specific to this league but to all leagues, and in my opinion, why bother to keep playing leagues after the first week or two? If you're playing this game mode for fun, eventually the novelty will wear off and the game mode has done exactly what it's meant to do, and the falling numbers playing isn't in any way, shape or form a sign of failure, it's just what naturally happens. However, the only other reason to play this mode is for the competition. And not that many people can give up 16 hours every day for 8 weeks to genuinely challenge for first, so all you're realistically playing for is a trophy that will sit in your bank for the rest of the year, and I just feel there should be more incentive. The fact that all of the rewards are tradable diminishes their value. Playing for 8 weeks to get enough points for 10 million in items is a poor reward, and your time would be far better spent AFKing brutal black dragons just for one day, buying the 10 million in items and having money left over. I would also love to see a trim, stripe or cup added to the skill capes if you wanted to, the colour being the rank you achieve in leagues. This could also be purchasable to remove some of the excess GP in Oldskool, and is so much better than walking around with an oversized cup, blatantly trying to show off. Whilst this game mode is great, we all know what we will do for just a tiny bit more XP. The biggest issue leagues always faces is it has to be worth losing 8 weeks of XP in the main game for, and currently the reward doesn't even come close. I like the idea of achieving certain things in leagues, such as the first person to get level 99, first person to max all fragments and so on, but I'd also like to see 2 different game modes. The game mode we currently have, as not to undermine those that actually do put a lot of time and effort into it and rightly do get a very high rank for all their hard work. But I'd also love to see another game mode where you are limited to so many hours play. That way those who can only play on weekends or evenings can have a competition as well, where they can see within 100 hours of gameplay who can get the highest points in that time. In that game mode, after say 100 hours of play, your account will be stopped from playing leagues anymore and you can have as many attempts as you want. But at the end of leagues, we will know who is number 1 on a completely even playing field where no one can win it simply by putting in more time. That's my thoughts on Leagues 3 this year. I did enjoy it regardless of a few issues with it. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are and what you think we could do to make leagues even better next year.